Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to use Greenfoot, and we'll just do a little program together. And then that way you can try P2C, P2D, P2E. It's okay if you want to do those last, that's fine. Let's go to Greenfoot. Hopefully you have that installed already. If not, you should do that first. And depending on the version you have, it might look a little different. This is Windows, Defender Requirements, blocks some features of this app. Allow Java, platform, community, private numbers. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. See if this works. Okay, so it looks a lot like BlueJ. It's actually developed by the same people as BlueJ. Instead of projects, they have scenarios, but that's like a project. So we're going to say new scenario. And we're going to save these in the same folder. So I got these in APCSA 20. I'm going to save it in unit 2. And let's call this one P2AA. I don't know. Or we'll just call it P2AA. So project. I'm going to name these just like we named the other ones. Okay. All right. So it opens a little window just like BlueJ does. We have the new scenario. Now, let's see. Let's go to actor. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Let's go down here. New. Okay, so we're in that already. Edit, new class. Okay, that's what you want. So we got to go to edit, new class. So that's how you do a new class. Now I'm going to call this one the Alligator class. And you'll know why in a second. Alligator. And it opens over here. It's over here. So, well, let's see what we could do here. We right click here. Okay, this is what we want to do. I think I'm going to get rid of this, remove this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the actor class. We're going to right click and we say new subclass. And so we haven't talked about subclasses yet, but it's a class underneath another class. So we're going to do Alligator here. Now, when we create it, here's some of the fun things we can do in Greenfoot, because this is much more visual kind of animation version of an IDE. So we could pick some kind of image to represent this object. Now I'm going to go with you can pick whatever you want, and you can call yours different than alligator if you want. I'm going to go ahead and use an alligator, and I'm going to say, or you could even import your own file, so you can import your own image. I'm going to say okay. So that's how you create an alligator. Now, if we double click on this, or you could right click and say open editor, then that brings you to the code. So in here, there's some stuff that's already here that we're going to go ahead and leave. We can go ahead and leave that. Now it has this import for Greenfoot. Now it says public class alligator extends actor. So automatically there's these actor classes and world classes. So we're going to work with those. So we're going to create a subclass of the actor class, like I said, in sort of like a more specific version of that. In future units, we'll talk about subclasses more. Now in here, there's really not much other than an act method. And this act method will allow your object to move around and do different things inside that window, inside that the world that's sort of been created. But what we can do in here, what I'm going to want you to do is let's go ahead and do some of the things that we were talking about doing with classes. Like let's create some private instance variables. So, and I'm just emphasizing things that we talked about before. Instance variables is the first thing that we always do. And so I'm going to do private string name. So my alligator has a name. I'm going to do private Boolean is hungry. And we're just declaring them. So then let's do a constructor. So all the stuff's missing. So public alligator. That's how you'd make the constructor. We could do a zero arg version and then initialize these. Now mine's auto tabbing, which I find, could be nice, but a lot of times it's kind of annoying and won't let me do. So I'm going to take off auto indent. And I guess I should make this bigger so you guys can see it better. Okay, so I created some private instance variables in the alligator class. Alligator's name and Boolean is hungry. This is a constructor, so in zero arg, we usually just go with null for objects, which strings are, and hungry. Usually for hungry we do, or for Boolean we do false. Okay, and then we could do a multi-arg constructor. I got to close that one though. End zero arg constructor, and then public alligator, and this one's gonna be multi-arg. So we need to say what kind of thing we expect, a string, and give it a name temporarily, initial name, and then we expect Boolean, and I'm going to call it initial is hungry. And so the name equals initial name, and is hungry equals initial is hungry. Close it. End to arg constructor. Okay, so get caught up, pause it if you need to.
What?
Let's see. Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. So then we could create a toString. Okay, I guess I forgot to, you don't have to do this, but I'm just putting some of those notes again. So you could say to constructor. So, we're just going to be doing the same thing. A lot of the stuff when we create a class is really just the same things, over and over again. So we're going to do a toString, 3 toString method. So it's going to be public and return a string. It's named toString. It's zero arg. Should be zero arg. Opening curly brace, closing curly brace. Comment end method toString. And then up here, we're going to say return alligator. And then I could put an extra space, but it's name. Then say is hungry, question mark, extra space, plus is hungry will then print out true or false. And that looks like, I don't know, looks like a decent toString. So we have our toString. Now, I want to show you guys some different things here. Well, first of all, we could compile this and we could go back here, and now you don't see one in here. You don't see an alligator in here. Now, one way you can do it is you could right click on it and say new alligator. Now you can use the zero arg or the multi arg, so you can kind of like, and so you click one. It's not working. I thought we could well, yeah. Alligator is hungry. Seems like everything's good. Compiled. Oh, it's compiling. I guess it's not done compiling. I guess that's why we couldn't do it. Well, for some reason it's not compiling right now. Might have been those messages I received. Well, okay. Well, for now, let's see. This is going to kind of get in the way then. Alligator. Look, alligator. So it's just compiling forever. Okay. I'm going to try and close this all down real quick. Just troubleshoot. If I reopen it, I wonder if we'll get those messages again. Maybe I should give it permission. So there we go. It opens the last project you're in. So it's still not compiled. So well, that might be a problem. I'll try and show you some other stuff that we can do. I'm just not going to be able to demonstrate it here. So action code, void act. This is an act method, and this is where you can put code to make it move around and stuff. So different ways to make it move around. You could say move 5, and that's like how many sort of like pixels it'll move, but this act method is going to keep going, so it's going to move 5, move 5, move 5. It's just going to keep moving 5. So it would go sort of like back and forth, or it might like hit a wall. If you were to use this method, turn 5, that's how many degrees it's turning, and I'm trying to remember in what direction that is. Okay, it's in degrees. 360 degrees would be a complete turn. So I don't know if you want to write that. In degrees, 360 is a complete turn. So if you wanted to turn around, you could have turn 180. If you wanted to make a sharp right turn, right angle turn left or right, you could do 90 or 270, or you could even put negative angles in. Let's see, something else I'm going to want you to be able to use for yours is there's some built-in methods in this world, and one of the ways you could see it is you could go, let's see, if you double click on that, the actor class, it opens up what's called the documentation for it, and you could look in here and it tells you different things. You can get neighbors. I get return neighbors to this object within a given distance. That'll return a bunch of information. I don't know if you'll be able to figure out how to use that right now. So you can get its X and Y coordinates. Now, by the way, 0, 0 is the upper left corner, and then positive y is down and positive x is to the right. So positive x is normal, what you think. The positive y is down from the top right, top left corner. We're going to use this one, is at edge. So it'll determine if it's at the edge of the world. And if it is, then it might get stuck. So you could check if it's at the edge and make it turn around or something. So it bounces off the edge and keeps going or something. You can get is touching, checks whether this actor is touching any other objects. This is the move one that we're talking about. If it touches something else and you want that object to be removed, you can do that. So you can kind of make games out of this. Have it, if it touches something else, that thing disappears. So it could like chase things. The turn, you can make it turn towards a certain and then down here, it has those same things in a little more detail. It describes how they work. So this is the documentation. So if you just double click, the actor class opens that. So one thing that we're going to use is we could check if it's at the edge. So is at edge returns Boolean, true or false. So you could say is at edge. That's the name of the method. And it's a zero arg method. Now you don't have to do the dot thing because it's from within this class. So you could say, well, if it's at the edge, do something, you know. So you could say, you know, you could say turn 180 degrees. So it'll turn around. Or you could kind of have it turn at like a little bit of an angle or something like that. Now, when it turns, you got to be careful because if it's at the edge still, which it will be, it'll just keep turning. It'll spin around in place. So after it turns inside this if, you want it to move away from the wall. So you might have it move 5 spots. If you don't, it's just going to get stuck at the wall and just spin around because it's going to be, is it at the edge? Spin. Is it at the edge? Spin. Is it at the edge? Spin. Well, actually, this tells it to move up here, so it probably be fine, but something to think about. So if it's at the edge, you could do that. If it's not at the edge, we could have it move. So I'm probably going to get rid of and else, of course, and if. So I'm probably going to comment these out. I wanted to show you how they worked on their own, but I'll have to try that later. Maybe a separate video after I figure out what I'm doing. I don't want to redo this whole thing. And you know what we could do too is we could have it print a message out if it's at the edge. So like if it's at the edge, we could say system.out.println I am at the edge. And these things will print out, and that would print out in a separate window. You could also say, is it not at the edge, move 5, else then it must be at the edge. So you can put like a exclamation in front of this, and that means not at edge. So you know, we could even have it, let's say, you know, maybe after each action or something, you could print out system.out.println Tostring. Now in this case, we have to say Tostring because we're inside of the object. So we call the Tostring from there and print out sort of. Anyway, so that's just some stuff to play around with that. Like I said, the documentation has a lot more information. Now, one other thing we could do is we could go to the world, and this will open up a bunch of methods in the world. And one of the things we could do is it's a background. So you could say, you could right click it and say new subclass, give it a name. I'm going to call it swamp or something. I don't know. I could go down here to backgrounds and try and find something that looks like a swamp for my alligator. Maybe nature or something. I'll just put some grass in there or something. Now, like I said, you could upload your own images if you want. So there's the swamp. Now, usually what would happen is you'd see these on here, but we're not right now. Now, in this swamp world, here's something that I'm going to want you guys to do. We could actually have it create some alligators and place them inside the world. So there's this super thing that creates the size of the world. So you can make it bigger or smaller. I think this is the X by Y. So 600 by 400 cells. Each cell is a 1 by 1 pixel. So you can make it bigger or smaller. And then you could use this method from the world class called add object. And you could say, okay, I want to add a new alligator, 0 arg, and I want to put it at the location 5050, which is actually kind of upper left-hand corner, okay? Because remember, it's starting at the upper left-hand corner, it's coming down 50 and right 50, and relative to the size of the world, that's close to the upper left-hand corner still. We could do add object, new alligator, and then this is almost like a driver. I could give my alligator a name, Tommy. I could say whether Tommy's hungry or not. True, he's hungry. And then I could put him at, say, spot 100, 100. And that's just the first spot. Because then when it runs, they're going to move around. So that's something else I want you guys to do. Add the objects in the world. And then once you do that, I'm assuming this isn't going to compile for some. Oh, forgot a semicolon. Try and compile it. It says class compiled. Well, maybe it's going to work this time. And is this one compiled? No, this is where this one's lagging. Oh, there it is. So here's the background. Here's my two alligators. That one's the 0R. This one's Tommy. And then the way you run your program, instead of selecting the main method or whatever, you go down here and you can go to run. Now this is just printing out, but notice how every time they hit a wall, they turn around and they actually flip upside down because the object actually rotates 180 degrees. You could make them go backwards, I guess, and then you just go forwards and backwards instead of flipping around, but it keeps doing this. Now I could just get rid of that or minimize that and kind of see what's going on. Now you could pause it. You could just go through one act at a time. That's just one thing. Otherwise, the run thing is going through the act all the time. You go to reset, it'll put it back in its original spot. If I go back to alligator, we could change some things up and see how that. I'm going to uncomment these. And now there's another way to comment. You can go /* and then so instead of putting a bunch of double slashes in front of everything, you do /* and then * afterwards, and it comments out everything in between. So that's a quick way to comment a lot of stuff out. So if I compile that, okay, and I go back here and reset it, and I run, that's what he's doing. That's what they're doing. They're moving and churning. Now I want to stop this. I want to go back here. I'm going to get rid of the turn part for a second. And you can kind of see when they get stuck at a wall or something. So reset, run. They hit a wall and they just get stuck because they keep trying to move 5 and they're stuck. So that's why you need the is at edge to check if they're at the wall or not. And if they're at the wall, make them churn. But you don't have to make them go totally back and forth. Now it's still running, so you want to pause it. We could say, I'm going to comment these out and uncomment this. Now, instead of 180, I could say, if I did 90, I wonder if they would just go around the edges or something. Let's try that. Also, just try different things. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to try to reset it, and I'm going to do run. Then hit the wall. I'm going to churn. Oh. I guess they turn 90 twice because they turn 90 and then they go along the wall and then it checks if they're at the wall and they still are. So that's kind of interesting. But we could do something like, 50 degrees. Let's see what that does. So reset it. 50 degrees. Boom, 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 boom. It's like there. Anyways, so just something fun to practice some of the ideas. There is no graphics or anything on the AP test, but it's kind of a fun way to explore some of the ideas that we're doing and actually have a graphical result. So you're going to use this on P2C, P2D, and P2E. And we're probably going to bring it back in some future units too. So, but I want you in these subclasses. So the way you do this is you right click and you say new subclass. This is where you create classes, okay? And it's the world one's really just the way you want it to look. But this one down here, this is where I want you to go ahead and add the stuff in that we've been doing with private instance variables, constructors, toStrings, and all that stuff. And then in the act here, you're probably going to have to try and do something based off of what the assignment says, okay? So try that out, get creative, have fun with it. And I've had students create like essentially video games out of this. I mean, simple video games, but they've put a lot of energy into it and it's evolved. I think my first year, I've had a student, Sam Soares. He created Shaun the Sheep. There was like wolves and sheep, and they were like chasing each other and all kinds of different stuff. So that's it. See if you can try P2C, P2D, and P2E. If you'd like, you could try the last assignments in Unit 2 and then come back and do these, or back and forth, take a break from it. Sometimes people have a little trouble with this new system because it is a new system. But, it works a little different than BlueJ, but it has some similarities. That's it.